Hello everyone, you're welcome to Budget Explainer series, and today we'll start with the 2026 budget. But we have to first dial back to understand that 2024 budget and 2025 budget was recently repealed and reenacted, which means the federal government effectively cancelled the 2024 and 2025 budget and represented it. Till now, we're yet to see the details of 2024 and 2025 repealed budget. But let's zoom in into 2026 budget, and if you look into that budget, it has the same significant issues that the federal government continues to face. One, revenue problem. In the 2026 proposed budget, the revenue projection was 34.3 trillion naira, which means the federal government plans to hand 34.3 trillion naira. But wait for it, 23.8 trillion naira is what the federal government intends to borrow. That is the deficit of the budget, which means, and if you put the maths together, for every 100 naira that the federal government intends to earn, it intends to borrow 70 naira to be able to make up the budget. So we have a big problem, and that's not what you find in any reasonable country. You do not borrow at that scale, which means the federal government does not have enough revenue and it continues to use debt to match that, and that's leading to a bigger crisis. The crisis is leading to what you have as a debt servicing crisis. In recent years, Nigeria's debt servicing has been growing. In 2014, Nigeria's debt service was around 27 billion naira. Now that debt service numbers has risen to 12.84 trillion naira as of 2024. Now, federal government projects 15 trillion naira debt servicing costs. Now, imagine federal government's revenue in 2024 was 20 trillion naira. Let's even say they do all their best. They get 25 trillion naira in 2026, which means you're spending 15 trillion naira. And you were going to spend more than 15 trillion naira because some payments are due in 2026 for Eurobonds and the rest. You're going to spend for more than that. So even if you spend 18 trillion naira, revenue of 25 trillion naira, you spend 18 trillion naira on servicing debt, so you have just 7 trillion naira left. So the problem is that you're going to pay salaries, you're going to run over it, you're going to do statutory transfers. So very clear, we have a revenue problem, we have a deficit problem, we also have a debt servicing cost problem because we keep borrowing more to meet the revenue shortfalls that we have. The second problem we have is a fiscal discipline problem. Now, let's look at it. Capital expenditure of the federal government is robust, is somewhere around 18 trillion naira. But reality is that a lot of capital projects are leaving the MDA. So MDAs are not responsible for capital expenditure as they should. Now, 5.1 trillion naira is called capital supplementation items. And if you look deeply into those things, you can't even find the details of capital supplementation. You can't even think if they are capital enough. When you say something is capital, that means it has to extend between the shelf life of the project. That means if I build a road now, I can use that one for 5-10 years. If I pay salaries now, it's only for this current year. So capital projects should extend beyond the shelf life of the budget. But what you get is that for capital supplementation project, you do not know who's responsible for it. The other problem you begin to face are what you call statutory transfers, with the federal government spending 4.09 trillion. Now, those are National Assembly, NGC, INEC. Now, INEC has a budget of 1 trillion now. The problem with the statutory transfer is that you don't see their details. The National Assembly spent 3.44 billion naira for what? INEC spending 1 trillion naira for what? And those are the questions that we need to ask as citizens to be able to know that 2026 budget has to work. And the reason is this. If you don't have enough revenue, just think about it in your own daily life. If you don't have enough revenue, what it means is that you rationalize your spending. Federal government do not have enough revenue, so it continues to borrow significantly. And it's supposed to rationalize its capital spend, especially to make sure it focuses on what matters. But sometimes you feel like federal government is trying to be the federal local government of Nigeria. It's trying to do almost every single thing. That's why at Budget we're asking you to ask questions. And this is the beginning of how I explain our series. Thank you.